In this course, we're going to be taking a look at what's becoming one of my favorite iPhone filming apps. This app has everything from videography, photography, the ability to shoot and log, and apply a bunch of preset filters in camera. It has all the pro settings and manual controls that you expect from a mirrorless camera type footage. Now they do have a free version, but to unlock all the pro features, you'll need to upgrade to the paid version, which is a steal at a one-time payment for less than $10. In this course, I'll give you a jumpstart, quick overview for those of you that are impatient and want to get going, and then we'll dive into each setting individually in much more detail. Okay, let's jump into Cinema P3 Pro. This only works on iPhone and iPad devices. Sorry, Android users. From the App Store, search for Cinema P3 Pro camera. You'll have to install this free version first before you can upgrade for the Pro tools. The app will need permission to access your camera, the microphones, and your Photos app on your phone. Once it loads, you basically have 7 days free trial. But to unlock the Pro tools, which I strongly suggest that you do, it's a one-time payment for under $10. On the top left is a shopping cart. Click on this, and here we see a list of features that you'll get in the Pro version. So we'll choose to upgrade to the Pro version, and then now they're installed. Next, we'll do an overview of the menus before we dive into each setting in detail. Cinema Pro 3 has a very nice simple menu layout. At the bottom left, if you click on the camera icon, this opens up all of your shooting modes, such as photo, video, and creative. These Pro tools are available free to you for the first 7 days, then you'll need to purchase them to get access to them. In photo mode, the autofocus reticle is displayed, and you can tap on it to lock it, and tap it again to unlock it. Next, on the bottom right, if we click on the wrench or spanner icon, the camera settings for photo mode will be displayed, and there's numerous settings here, all relating to the photo mode setup. If we move to the camera icon, we can see more photo related settings like format, timer settings, flash mode, red eye. You also have photo formats like RAW and JPEG, as well as a lot more. Next, let's change to video mode. When you see the reticle, it's for both exposure and focus. We can change this by going to the wrench icon in the camera settings, then change exposure mode to spot. Now we have the usual circle reticle for exposure and the square reticle for focus. Tap them to lock them when they turn orange, tap them again and locks them. In camera settings, we have settings now for the video mode as well as photo, like white balance, focus modes, video stabilization, also preserve settings which let you use the same settings whether you're in photo, video or creative modes. This saves you time when switching between modes. One nice feature is pause recording. This basically allows you to edit in real time as you record. Under the sundial camera settings, in this menu we can turn this on. Now in video mode, once we start recording, you'll see a pause button. Pressing this pause button stops the recording and pauses it so that you can set up another scene or move to another location, and then pressing it again continues with recording. So basically it's like editing on the fly. Hitting the photo or video button again brings up your camera menu, where you could choose the front camera, for example, so like the selfie mode, or choose your back cameras. Next we have the camera picker menu, where on my phone I can choose the ultra wide, wide, or the 3x telecamera. The other icon you'll see looks like a camera or zoom lens. This is a digital zoom. So if I've chosen the ultra wide camera, for example, this is my physical optical camera. The zoom function allows you to digitally zoom 2 or 3 times. But remember, it's digital zoom, and that's never as good as optical zoom. This can be done on any of the physical cameras. The audio gain cannot be adjusted using the internal iOS mics. This is an Apple thing, an iOS software. However, when an external mic is installed, tapping this button allows you to adjust and monitor the audio gain. On the left side, we can see the audio signal levels. On the right menu, we have WB for white balance. Tapping the WB shows two sliders. One is for tint, and the other one is the Kelvin range. Once a slider is moved, it locks the white balance. However, tapping this button will unlock it and it goes back to auto white balance again. There is also an icon where you can set a custom white balance using a gray card or a white piece of paper. A useful feature if you're using multiple cameras, where they can all be set to a common white balance reference. Next, we have the plus-minus bias slider, which will make your exposure brighter or darker by either adjusting the ISO or shutter combination normally. Next, we have focus. By moving this slider with focus peaking turned on, as you move the slider, you'll see that whatever's in focus turns green. You can also change the color to other colors in the settings. In the settings tools, we can set manual focus loop to on. Now when we hit focus, we have a magnified area that we can move around to wherever we want, like this palm for example. Tap it and the focus is now set to that palm bush. Hit focus again and move the magnifier to somewhere else, like this palm tree. Tap it and then focus is set to there. Hit the wrench button again to go to settings. This first tab has numerous settings and parameters to change. The next tab is video settings, as we're in video mode. Format settings is where you can change your resolution, frame rate, and color space, and profile settings. Going back, you can choose your video codecs from H.264 to ProRes 422HQ. You can set up your time code and where you want to store your media on your photos library or in the app, and you can customize your video file name. At the top of the screen is a heads-up display with all the information on resolution and frame rate, your color bit rate, your focus mode, your white balance and Kelvin value, your ISO value, your shutter speed, your battery level, and shutter angle. Clicking any of these take you back into the settings menu where you can change them. So this is a nice quick way to gain access to these settings. For more control, we can go into the settings under exposure mode and select manual. You notice now that we can manually adjust ISO and shutter speed on their own. Notice that the shutter speed is actually in shutter angle, which makes life easy if you're setting your shutter speed up for the 180-degree shutter rule. So here we see we're in 4K 30 frames per second. So we just need to set our slider to 180 degrees. And it sets our shutter correctly at 1/60. Next we have creative mode. Notice that when you do this, you see a cube appear in the center bottom of the screen. But let's come back to this a little bit later. We can also turn on scopes, and this app has them all. Just tap on the scopes to cycle through them. You have a Luma histogram, luminous scopes, RGB parade, RGB waveforms, separated RGB histograms, your color space waveform, and vector scopes. More than you'll ever need. In tools, we can set the analysis modes for zebras, for example. This shows up on the bottom right button. So as we adjust exposure, we'll see the zebras when we over or underexpose a scene. Or we could change the analysis mode to false color. So now when we tap this button, we get false color overlay. Here we see as we adjust the shutter angle, which also adjusts the shutter speed, the false color changes accordingly as it affects exposure. So remember, we went to creative mode, and depending on what we're shooting, it will give you different creative profiles. I'm in 4K 30 frames per second and Rec 709. We need to set our ISO back down and our shutter angle back to 180 degrees. So now if we hit the cube on the bottom of the screen, we see that we have A-log format. We also have built-in filters that can be applied to the camera, like Standard Plus, or Cinema A, or Cinema B. And you can also see there's water drops on some of them, and this allows you to adjust the saturation of each of these filters. So if we go back and change our color space to Rec 709 10-bit, for example, we now have B-log format and other filters that we can apply in camera. So this is a great way you can apply a filter like a LUT directly to your footage as you shoot it. Last, we have a cogwheel for the settings on top right. Here is where the files are that we created are stored. They're also color-coded, for example. Orange being Rec 709, yellow shows P3 files. You also have a whole range of camera tools that you can access through this menu also. So as you can see, there's a whole lot of things you can do with Cinema P3. This really is becoming one of my favorite iPhone filming apps. So is this app the Filmic Pro killer? It might just be. I love this app. It's far becoming my favorite app. The creator is always putting new stuff onto it all the time, and I love filming with the iPhone with this app. Alright, if you want to go much deeper into every one of these settings and real life examples of how to use them, jump over to my website and there's a course there just for this. Alright, take care, be safe, and I'll see you in the next video.